This happened in 2019 4th of July weekend. I was 23 at the time, living in the outskirts of Missouri, near this small town called Norwood. It's not really a place most people know, unless they've driven through southern Missouri, backroads mostly farms, silos, and long stretches of nothing. The kind of place where you can leave your door unlocked and still not sleep peacefully because the quiet is just too quiet. Anyway, I was back home visiting my grandparents. They own about 40 acres of land, and every 4th of July, they throw this big family gathering. Fireworks, barbecue, bonfire. A lot of us cousins show up every year, even the ones who've moved out of state. It's one of the only times the family is all in one place. This particular year, I had convinced my girlfriend Natalie to come with me. She's a SATI girl born and raised in Kansas City, and let's just say she was a bit hesitant about celebrating the 4th in the middle of nowhere. But she agreed, and honestly, the first day or so was great. She really hit it off with my cousins, and I could tell she was trying to enjoy herself. We spent most of the day eating, playing stupid yard games, and just relaxing. Classic small-town family stuff. Then when it got dark, we all moved toward the east end of the property to light off fireworks. Now, for context, there's this big open field behind my grandparents' barn. It stretches about half a mile and slopes downward before it meets a tree line. That's where we always set off fireworks far enough from the house to be safe and open enough for a good show. We were maybe 30 minutes into lighting stuff when my younger cousin, Tyler, who was 14 at the time, said he saw something at the edge of the field, like near the tree line. At first, everyone ignored him. Tyler's kind of dramatic, and he's into horror movies and all that. But then he insisted. He said he saw a man standing just beyond the tall grass, not moving, just watching. We all laughed it off. I even made a dumb joke about how he'd watched The Purge too many times. But I noticed Natalie wasn't laughing. She was scanning the tree line pretty intensely, almost like she was expecting to see something too. Eventually, someone launched one of those big aerial fireworks, the kind that explode into a massive red umbrella of spark sand. The whole field lit up. That's when I saw it too. There was definitely someone there, a tall figure, maybe 6 feet or more, standing completely still at the edge of the woods. The moment the light faded, he was swallowed up by darkness. Again, everyone got real quiet for a second. Then my uncle started shouting, trying to scare the person off, thinking it might be some drunk local who wandered over from the county road nearby. But the figure didn't move, didn't say anything. We launched another firework, same effect. The guy was still there, standing in the exact same spot, like a statue. That's when my uncle grabbed his flashlight and started walking toward the tree line. Tyler tried to stop him, saying, "Don't go. Please, don't go." But my uncle laughed it off and said, "It's probably just a kid playing a prank." I remember watching the flashlight beam bob up and down as he walked further into the field. He reached the spot where the figure had been standing, but the flashlight just scanned over empty grass. No one was there. He turned back toward us and started walking back. We were all waiting for him at the barn, and I remember he had this strange look on his face when he returned. Not scared exactly, but unsettled. He just said, "Nobody there," and that was that. We tried to go back to lighting fireworks, but the mood had shifted. Natalie pulled me aside and whispered that she didn't feel right. Said the air felt heavier out in that field, like something was wrong with the land itself. Now, here's where things get weird. After the fireworks ended, around midnight, most of the adults and little kids went back inside. Just a few of us, cousins, me and Natalie, stayed back near the fire pit, roasting marshmallows and telling dumb stories. Tyler said he wanted to go back out into the field to prove what he saw. Natalie immediately said no, and I agreed. But Tyler's older brother, Josh, said he'd go with him. Said he wanted to clear the air. Those two grabbed flashlights and walked off into the field toward the tree line. We waited. 5 minutes passed. Then, 10. Josh came back. Alone. When we asked where Tyler was, he just stared at us, confused. He said, "What are you talking about? I came out here alone." We thought he was joking, but the more we pressed him, the more worried he looked. He kept asking if we were messing with him, if maybe Tyler had gone out before him. But we all saw them walk out together. Josh swore he never saw Tyler, never walked with him, and that he'd gone alone. We immediately scattered to search the field with flashlights and phone lights. We called Tyler's name over and over again. After about 15 minutes, we heard him scream. I swear to God, it was one of the most blood-curdling, inhuman screams I've ever heard. It didn't even sound like a 14-year-old. It sounded older, like something else was screaming through him. We all ran toward the sound, but the field was pitch black and uneven. Natalie tripped and scraped her knee. Josh kept yelling, "Tyler, where are you?" And then the scream stopped. Josh cut off. We spent the next hour scouring the field and the woods. Finally, someone called 911. The cops showed up a little after 2 a.m. They brought dogs, thermal scopes, the whole 9 yards. Nothing. No sign of him. His footprints just stopped about 200 feet from the tree line. The ground was soft, muddy in some areas. and you could literally see where his steps just ended, like he had vanished into thin air. The search went on until morning. I didn't sleep, nobody did. When the sun came up, they finally found him. He was standing in the middle of the field, barefoot, shirtless, completely still. His eyes were open, but he wasn't blinking, not even flinching at the sunlight. He was just standing there, unmoving. He didn't respond when we called to him. Two of the paramedics ran over and slowly walked him back. When we asked where he'd been, he just said, "They didn't want me to leave." We asked him who they were, but he wouldn't say anything else. Just kept repeating the same line. "They didn't want me to leave. They didn't want me to leave." He stayed in the hospital for 3 days. They said it was shock, maybe some form of catatonia or psychological trauma, but nothing ever explained how he got out there, why he was shirtless, or why he had scratch marks all over his back, 3 long, parallel scratches running from shoulder to hip like claw marks. We haven't celebrated the 4th at my grandparents' house since Natalie broke up with me 6 months later. She still refuses to talk about what happened that night. And Tyler, he doesn't remember anything. At least that's what he tells us. This happened to me and my younger brother in 2016, the night of July 4th. At the time, I was 20, he was 17. Our family had rented this little lakefront cabin in Michigan for the weekend. It wasn't one of those nice, modern lake houses either. It was old, wooden, and just remote enough to make it charming if you were into that kind of thing. The nearest town was about 25 minutes out, and the road to get there was a winding mess of gravel and overgrown brush. That kind of quiet that isn't really quiet, if you know what I mean. Anyway, our parents had driven back into town that morning to pick up more fireworks and some last-minute groceries. It was supposed to be a quick errand, and they told us they'd be back before sundown. Spoiler, they weren't. By 9 p.m., it was dark, and they still hadn't come back. I tried calling them, but it kept going to voicemail. My brother said not to worry, that maybe they were out of service or had decided to grab dinner in town, but something about it didn't sit right. I remember standing on the deck, just staring out at the black water. It was dead still, not even the sound of crickets. The whole lake was eerily silent. Eventually, I went inside and tried to shake it off. My brother was in the living room, setting up the little indoor fire pit to roast marshmallows. There was a big glass sliding door in the back of the cabin, with a perfect view of the woods end. I mean, right up against the tree line. There was no fence, just trees. I was mid-sentence when I saw something move out there. A light that looked like a flashlight beam cutting through the trees. Not like someone had dropped it, like someone was holding it and moving. I told my brother to turn off the lantern so we could see out better. He did, and that's when we saw it clearly. A single beam of light coming out of the woods, maybe 100 feet away. And it wasn't wobbling like someone walking. It was steady, focused, unnaturally smooth. We just stared for a few seconds. Then another beam lit up next to it. And then another. 3 separate flashlights, all pointed at our cabin. Unmoving. My brother whispered, "Is that Mom and Dad?" But I didn't say anything, because I already knew there was no way. They wouldn't be out in the woods. They'd come up the driveway, and then just like that, one of the lights started moving. Not toward the cabin exactly, but around, off to the right. Then another peeled off to the left. It was like they were surrounding us. I told my brother to lock the doors, all of them. We bolted the front, the back, even the windows. My heart was going so hard, I thought I was going to pass out. We turned off all the lights and just crouched in the kitchen, waiting. There was a long silence. And then something scraped across the back door. Not a knock, not a bang, a scrape, like metal on glass. Slow, deliberate. I looked toward the backslider and saw the outline of a person, standing just outside the glass. Their face was pressed right up against it, but it was too dark to see clearly. Just this vague shape, all male, maybe wearing a hood. Then came another face. To the left, same thing, no features, just a black silhouette against the faint moonlight. Then a third. 3 of them, all standing outside the back door, watching us, not moving. I don't even remember grabbing the knife, but I had one in my hand, a dull one from the kitchen drawer. My brother had the fire poker. We didn't say anything. We just watched as they stood there. Then one of them slowly lifted his hand and started pointing toward the woods. Not like a wave, not like a threat, just a straight arm, finger aimed into the trees. He kept it there for what felt like a full minute. Then, all 3 turned at once and walked into the forest. Gone. No sound, no words. Just ... gone. We didn't sleep. We stayed up the entire night with our backs to the wall, knives clutched, lights off. I must have checked the locks every 15 minutes. Our parents didn't return until almost 6 a.m. They said the car had broken down and they'd gotten stuck at a gas station where no one had a charger for their phone. They looked exhausted, frazzled, not like they were lying. When we told them what happened, they just stared. Then my dad said, and I quote, "That's not the first time someone said that about this place." Apparently, the guy who owned the cabin before them had told my dad about strange lights in the woods at night, people watching from the trees. He thought it was just local kids messing around. But that wasn't kids. That wasn't a prank. Here's the part I still don't like thinking about. When the sun came up, I went outside to check for footprints. There was a trail clear as day leading from the edge of the trees straight to the back door. But there were no prints going back into the woods. None. It was like they came right up to the house, and vanished. To this day, I've never figured it out. Never seen anything like it again. But I can still feel that feeling. The silence, the weight in the air, and three faceless shadows behind the glass. Watching